So to begin, uh, we would like to know what are some key issues the NAACP is currently focusing on, and what are some ways your organization combats these issues?
Sure. So right now we are focused on pressing issues like racial justice, voter suppression, which is huge, police reform, healthcare disparities, and economic inequality and education access. And then how we're tackling these challenges are through legal advocacy, public awareness campaigns, voter registration drives, and partnerships with other organizations to influence policy and legislation.
Okay, that sounds really good.
Do you guys have any follow-up questions for her based on her response?
Is there any like specific examples of a time that like you advocated and what was like the experience like?
And so I'll just give you some context, right? So I just became the president about a month ago.
Mhm.
And so what I will say is that one of our biggest challenges is voter rights and voter registration, right? And
Mhm.
so I just was challenged on my Facebook page on why is it important to vote? And so I had to break it down where voting doesn't stop when you go into the booth. Voting continues, right? When you elect these officials and you hold them accountable for what they said.
Mhm.
And so I challenge anybody that asks me that, right? Like, why is voting so important? For your age group, it's truly important because what we're seeing in our world right now is that they're trying to suppress votes, they're trying to take away our civil liberties, they're trying to take away our civil rights, education as a whole, and erase history, right? And so we need those young people to be fighters, civil rights fighters. If you think back in history, the Martin Luther Kings and all those, and people that sat at the lunch tables, and people that like Rosa Parks that sat on the bus and said, we want rights, they held their local officials accountable.
Mhm.
I feel like our environment has become very complacent. We're just comfortable with what we're getting, right?
Yeah.
We're not fighting for our rights anymore. So when you go into that voter booth and you vote for whoever, my expectation is that you go to those local meetings that you have in your cities and your towns, right? And you hold those people accountable. You go to the Board of Education meetings and you hold them accountable, right? So that they're not taking funding away from your education. You hold people accountable for anything that you feel your civil liberties are being taken away from. And so I'm not sure if that answered your question completely, but that's the most important right now is getting people to the polls and ensuring that people are following up after they leave the polls and those people are elected.
Mhm. So what would you tell someone who is like you give them that explanation, but it doesn't really resonate with them personally? What would you tell them like how their life would be like if they don't vote, if they don't stand up for something? What would you tell them?
You're going to stay complacent, right? You're going to stay where you are. And so do you want to move forward or do you want to stay where you are?
Mhm.
Do you want to have more? Do you want your rights taken away? Do you want somebody to dictate where you want to live or dictate on really what we're seeing now are big conglomerates purchasing homes,
Mhm.
right? And they're turning us into renters.
Mhm.
You don't want to be a renter, right? You're going to school for an education to make a really great salary, right?
Yeah.
Why would you want to become a renter? So
Mhm.
I have to educate people on what they're losing, why
Yeah.
it's important, why your voice is so important to be heard. You don't want your rents to continue to be $2,000, $3,000. You're
Mhm.
going to be living with your parents forever. I mean, and so that's so unfair. So I have to educate and I have to get people around me with like-minded thought so that we hit those pavements and we educate people on why it's so important. So having sit downs, having town halls, um having meetings at your local pizza places, right? To educate people. So I know there's going to be the naysayers, right? Because there's going to be people that never think that their vote counts. Oh, it's just the same old person. Oh, it's the same old thing. Nothing changes, right? But once you show somebody and you show up in forces, So if 20 of us showed up at a meeting versus one, who's going to hear more? Who's going to be seen more? It's going to be that 20 people versus that one person.
Mhm.
So we have to come out in a group to educate people. We have to come out, we have to go to these meetings in groups, not just not just me by myself.
Mhm.
So I have to keep encouraging, because guess what? Even if out of those 20 people, one person came to my meeting, that's a victory, because somebody heard me. And all we got to do is continue to educate.
Yes, thank
Hope
you.
that answered your question.
Yeah. So what do you think is NAACP's biggest victory?
So again, right now, I mean, we're still in the fight of the life, but I would say our biggest landmark Supreme Court decision versus Brown versus Board, where we abolished segregation in the public school system.
Mhm.
So at a point in time, and you can ask your parents, there was a point in time where children of color could not go to school.
Mhm.
It could not be in a school system. And that's really how we designed HBCUs. That's how we established our own sororities and fraternities, because we weren't allowed to go there. We weren't allowed to join. And so that is our biggest accomplishment of today: segregation into the schools.
Mhm. So on the topic of people of color, have you seen any progress since the 2020 protests?
Um, yes. I mean, our voices are being heard, right? And we are having policy reform, right? We're having public awareness. So we're hearing our voices are being heard more. We're having like banning chokeholds, right? So that was an accomplishment. Limiting no-knock warrants. And one of the biggest is having police body cams.
Mhm.
And so, some of those are some of the big things that we've seen change because of 2020, the protests for George Floyd.
Yeah. So what systematic issues do you think contribute to police brutality?
Mhm. Well, I would say systemic racism. I mean, what else can I say, right? Systemic racism, inadequate police training, lack of accountability, and biased enforcement policies, right, that perpetuate police brutality. And so, one of the things that, we think about is that in the inner cities, we have a lot of people that live outside the city that come into the city to be police officers. They don't understand how people live or how their socioeconomic lifestyle is. So the disparity there. And so I feel like, sometimes they're not held accountable and they're biased. And so again, instituting training, instituting um, um, DEI initiatives. And I know that's tough to say right now, but really having them sit down and understanding the city that they live in, and understanding the people and listening to them, and giving them police training. Again, that's really what it's going to be.
Mhm.
Hi, I'm sorry, my camera is having issues right now. But I do have a couple of questions. I know you just said you just recently took on the role of the president. So answer if you can, just what patterns or trends has the NAACP observed in terms of housing discrimination complaints or violations over the past few years?
Sure. So I'm new to New Britain as the president, but I've been in this dogfight, we'll call it, for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So discriminatory lending practices. And so this has been huge, right? So
Mhm.
that's huge. Unequal access to affordable housing. And if you're here in New Britain, if you can look around, right, we're building apartments that are $2,000 a month. How can you afford that?
Right.
And redlining. And so I'm not sure if you understand what redlining is, right? But they make districts for people that, people of color, right?
Right.
So they put people of color in an area and they redline those districts, right? And then when it comes down to voting, then, it kind of sways the votes.
Right.
So, and tenants with minority backgrounds. And I mean, that's a tough one too, right? They might not want to rent to you because you're a minority, right? And we have the stigma
Right.
about us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, redlining is huge. And, if you take some time to really research and understand redlining, that's huge, and how they redistrict many places so that there's, less voting, more voting.
Right.
It sways how the votes are, who's going to get in office.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right. And then just to, I guess, and that is, what would a truly equitable housing system look like in Connecticut?
Oh, affordable, safe, and equality for housing for all individuals, right? And so, affordable. Just because you're building $2,000 apartments doesn't mean that you can't build apartments next door that are affordable and safe, right? We tend to put folks, and I'll say people of color, into neighborhoods that are unsafe, where children can't play outside.
Mm-hmm.
They're scared to come outside, and that's not how a child should live.
Right.
And the quality of housing, right? And so you think that because someone and their socioeconomic status is lower than the next, you think you're supposed to give them like cheap housing or housing that their family wouldn't live in.
Right.
And so we have to have some equal access to all of those things in order for us to flourish. If a child doesn't have a safe place to go outside to play or a safe place to live, and there's bullets ringing around them, you think they're thinking about studying?
Right. Exactly.
So how do we change that narrative? And that's where I need the younger people, right? Because I feel like I'm on the downward spiral of this life.
I hear you.
But ensuring that you also have fair housing and affordable, and you're living safely. Again, I talk about the Brit, and I talk about, I talk about these beautiful apartments that are across the street from my store, right? Or downtown New Britain.
Right.
People are scared to get on the bus because you have people that are hanging out there. So you're building those expensive apartments. So who are you going to get to live there in those expensive apartments if they're scared to go to the bus stop? And that's what your selling point is. Live in New Britain, you could jump on the bus and get to Hartford to work at your fabulous job in the insurance companies or the banks, right?
Right.
People are not going to live there knowing that what you have living out there is not something they want to walk by every day.
Exactly.
So a lot of things.
I appreciate that answer.
You're welcome.
I know you had mentioned that some of the key issues your organization was focusing on was health disparities in healthcare.
Yes.
So I just had a couple questions about that. I just wanted to know, like, how does stigma around mental health show up in the communities you serve, and how does it affect whether people feel safe or willing to seek care?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. And again, I know this is recorded, but I want to give you context about who I am. So I wear multiple hats in the city of New Britain. So I am the president of the NAACP. I'm the president of the Mary McLeod Bethune Club. I am a commissioner on city planning, and I own a business, an arts and craft business downtown New Britain. And I also work in HR at Community Mental Health Affiliates here in New Britain. And so mental health is huge. And I have someone in our NAACP who will be leading that, who is an executive at at CMHA, and really cares about the mental health disparities that we're seeing in our communities. And so what we're told as we grow up as people of color is that you don't go see a doctor about your mental health.
Mhm.
You just man up. Little boys, man up. You don't tell anybody about your problems, right? And what happens in the house stays in the house. And so we continue to perpetuate that we should not tell somebody our business. And so that really hinders us as people of color, right? Because we're always told to, as little boys, right? Don't cry, man up. What does that mean?
Mhm.
Right.
Girls, do this, but don't tell anybody your problems, right? And so we continue to keep that inside of us. However, what we're trying to do is educate people that mental health is a real thing, right? And stop fearing that you're going to be judged. Where's their access, right? We have to tell people that there's access here. There's access in many places. So we have to continue to get the word out to
Mhm.
tell them that mental health is real. Because I have Caucasian friends who they were in therapy when we were in high school. Us, as people of color, honey, you better keep that inside. You better not tell anybody. And
Yep.
so it's in our communities. And everyone sitting on this call, right? That's in our communities.
Mhm.
We're told not to tell. We're told not to go see therapists because you're going to tell our business and what's going on in our houses. We have to break those barriers down and encourage people to see therapists, because a lot of our problems are from our childhood.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so if we don't get that out, if we're not expressing what happened, and it's not like I want Uncle Joe arrested, but I want to tell you what Uncle Joe did to me, why I can't marry Seth. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So we have to break those barriers. We have to break down those walls that mental health is real and that we can see doctors. We can seek therapy. We can seek someone to help us move forward in life.
Mhm.
We have to break the stigma.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And then you did already speak a little bit about it, but I wanted to know, how can grassroots efforts like your organization help bridge the gap in healthcare access for Black individuals?
Yeah. So I'll call it Black and Brown,
Mhm.
because we are a Black and Brown, a all-inclusive organization, but Black and Brown is really where there's, again, marginalized socioeconomic uh, disparities. And so before I took office, I would go to the meetings, and there would be like 7 or 8 of us sitting around the table, right? And so the person that was in charge of health, she would come in and she'd have all these great initiatives, right? Oh my gosh, we're doing this, we're doing that. And this clinic is happening this weekend, and this is happening this weekend. And I said, great. I said, so, because I was vocal, I said, that's awesome that you found out all this information. How are you disseminating that information to our community?
Mhm.
Because the 6 of us around here, I'm sure we know how to go to the doctor. I'm sure we know where the clinics are, right?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
how are you communicating that to the community? How are you raising awareness to our community? She was stuck. Like, well, I said, so tell me how we're going to do that. She couldn't answer. So as I took office, I said to them, I said, we have a section in the Progressive newspaper, which has touch point of 10,000 people. We have set up social media. So we have a Facebook page, please follow us. We have a Instagram page now, please follow us. And we are going to start doing podcasts.
Oh.
Mhm.
because we want to talk about what's happening in our community. And I have some really great people as leaders now. And so I'll talk about housing, if I can just go back a little bit. So we had a
Yeah.
person that was in charge of
Sure.
housing as well. She only focused on one part of the city. And I said to her, I said, okay, that's one place. But are you talking to people? Like, where's the information about the brand new apartments being built on Ellis Street? Where's the information about the houses being built on East Street? How do you get into that raffle to get the house, right? To be on that list. Like how all this stuff is going on in downtown New Britain or in the city of New Britain. How are you
Mhm.
communicating that? She said to me, well, how do you know that? I said, because I drive around and I network and I ask questions. So as I came into this role, I got people ahead of these committees now that will move this initiatives forward. We'll communicate differently. We'll bring back information. We'll go to these meetings and hold
Mhm.
the Fair Rent Commission accountable. So again, I will use social media. We will use podcasts. We will use the Progressive newspaper, and we will use our voices to
Mhm.
educate people on what's happening in our cities, in our city, I should say.
Mhm.
Wow.
Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm sorry I'm long-winded.
No, it's okay.
That's
Don't
perfectly fine.
apologize.
I promise.
Sorry, I apologize. You got the wrong person probably today. You're like,
No,
we will
no,
get this
you
done in
got the right
15
person.
minutes.
No, you're doing an amazing job at this.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Of
Especially on
course.
short notice.
Thank you.
So just two more questions left.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, how do you believe education inequality affects Black and Brown students today?
Passion of mine. Passion of mine. So another hat I wear with my business down here, my arts and craft business. I go out to different communities. And so I teach art therapy. I mean, art journaling at a nice, pretty sized, nice organization outside of New Britain. And I have 7 through 12-year-olds. And my 7-year-old, he doesn't know how to write, he doesn't know how to read. And he breaks down when I ask him to do a synopsis, small synopsis, not huge, of what he just drew or what he just did on one page. So my expectation is on one page, I give you a topic, you're going to do something artsy in reference to that topic. And on the other page, you're going to write what that is, right? And why is that impactful to you? I have an 8-year-old. She writes me a thesis, 2 pages, right? Her handwriting is beautiful, everything. She goes to a Catholic school. And so the education inequality is huge. There's 189 school districts in the state of Connecticut. New Britain is 180, what, 100, did I say 169? 169, we're 168. We've been 168 forever.
Wow.
It's disgusting. So there's kids that come out that are success stories, no doubt. However, the quality of schools, the fewer resources, there's lack of teachers. There's teachers that are not passionate, but they're there for a check. There's lower opportunities for advancement because we've mixed classes. We've mixed classes with kids that are slower learners with faster learners. And so now the teacher has to have attention on this person that's a slower learner, and that smart one over there, they're going to make it.
Mhm.
They don't need that much attention.
Yeah.
And the person that might not get that attention, right? That means they don't get a job because they're graduating school and they don't know how to read, they don't know how to write. And that No Child Left Behind law bill that Bush put in is devastating our communities. Because guess what? If Johnny couldn't read in 3rd grade, Johnny can't read in 4th grade, Johnny can't read in 5th grade, nor
Yeah.
can he read when he gets to be a senior in high school.
Mm.
So guess what? We're seeing that right now because you see that young lady that's suing the Hartford School District
Yeah.
because she's in college at UConn and can't read. How
Mhm.
unfortunate is that?
Right.
So what is she supposed to be? Because guess what? My real job, I'm HR at CMHA. So if she can't read or write, how am I hiring her? How is she going to live? That means
Right.
she's going to be in the system.
Yeah.
The system that keeps you in that cycle of being dependent on the government.
Mhm.
I thought we want our people to be successful in the United States. I thought this was the country for achievement, this country for being successful. How can
Mhm.
they be successful if they can't read or write?
Yeah.
Right.
So our school systems in our inner cities are losing out,
Mhm.
except for those parents that are very heavily involved in their children's lives, right?
Mhm.
Right.
But how about the parents that have to work 3 jobs just to pay for their rent,
Mhm.
just to put some food on their table? Because the
Right.
system is not set up where if I go to work and say I make $50,000, $60,000, right? But my rent is 2,000, my food is $600, whatever, right? Then my electricity, then my cell phone, then my cable. The state says to you, you have to be at this level in order for it to get state assistance, which is poverty, or you have to be making six or 7 figures. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So these people that are struggling, they're working 3 or 4 jobs, 3 jobs, right? To put food on their table, to pay those bills because the state and the government doesn't help them. But it
Mhm.
helps you if you're poor, or I should say, not poor, but you are financially challenged, I'll call it, right?
Mhm.
Where you're not making, you're the poverty level. And the poverty level is so disgusting, again, right? Disparaging to see those numbers. I think it's like a family of 4 making $20,000, $30,000, right?
Mhm.
How can you make $20,000, $30,000 and feed a family of 4?
Right.
So what's that mean? I stopped working because I can't afford daycare because daycare is expensive.
Yep.
So that keeps me in that cycle of being impoverished.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So education is crucial. When I was in school, we had IA, industrial arts. We had cooking, we had sewing, we had metal, sheet metal, and we had woodwork.
Mhm.
They've taken those arts and those IAs out of school.
Mhm.
So now you took away somebody that might not be so book smart,
Yeah.
but can use their hands.
Right.
So you took that away from them. So
Mhm.
what does it do? You have somebody that's uneducated. That leads to poverty because they can't read to get to school. They can't get a job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how do we change that? How do we fight for equality for that? I need people that are civil rights fighters and not complacent on the government giving you a check on the 1st and the 15th.
Mhm.
I need those people that are going to go back to school and say, guess what? I'm not going to sit here and let somebody dictate my life. I'm going to dictate my life. I need
Right.
that flipped upside down.
Mhm.
And I need people to be, these teachers that are going into the school systems, I need them to be passionate about their students
Yeah.
and their
Yep.
education.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So again, my long-winded answer, but
It's a perfect one. We
thank
promise.
you. Thank you.
Well, that answered both my questions. So
See? Perfect.
yeah, so that's all I have for you. I don't know if you guys have any last questions you guys might want to ask.
Yeah, you have me.
Yeah. Do you have any more like specific examples that you could tell us about anything that your organization has helped somebody with on any topic that you would like as far
So,
as racial?
so right now, people come to us for cases that they might feel are civil rights cases, right? So discrimination in the workplace. So that's been several discrimination in the workplace. And so we partner with a civil rights lawyer
Mhm.
to help them navigate the waters, because again, at times we don't have those resources, nor do we have the financial funding.
Mhm.
And so it's NAACP is all volunteers,
Mhm.
except at the national level where they get a pay because that's their full-time job, right? But all of us freedom fighters, will call us on this ground level, are volunteers. And so we really try to partner with folks that are lawyers, civil rights lawyers that know how to navigate the system. And so we have a few, we have one right now where a church is in need of some assistance. And we had some attorneys in Hartford that are helping with that church. So there are smaller things on the ground level here, but we are nationally putting protest against Target and Walmart, right? Those
Yep.
organizations that are perpetuating racism, taking away DE&I, right?
Yep.
And so we have blackout days where we don't shop. And we communicate that out on our social media pages. Do not shop on this day. Let's hit the pockets of the people that are making tons of money off of us, because guess what? The Black and brown community made them very, very wealthy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we do targeted marketing around blackout times.
Mm.
And it might be a day, but in a day, guess how much money
Clean it
they're
up.
not making?
Makes a big
Yep.
difference. Yeah.